Hi guys, in this video I'm going to talk about deload weeks, okay? So those of you who aren't aware of what a deload week is, it's basically a week of active recovery. So the reason why you have these deload weeks is essentially to allow you to progress in the following weeks after the deload week, okay? So there's really two schools of thoughts with regards to deloads. There's the school of thought which essentially has the individual deload at specific week intervals. So this could be every 4th week, could be every 6th week, every 8 weeks back if you're a beginner. Or there's the auto-regulation approach where essentially you're putting your deload weeks into your schedule depending on your progress. So for example, if your progress starts to decline, this could be a possibility to have a deload week in, or perhaps when you've stagnated in progress, so you've plateaued for several weeks, that could be another opportunity to put a deload in. So both have their place, and as always the context will dictate which choice you use. Personally, I do believe that for a beginner, having scheduled deload weeks in can be very good for that individual, purely because they're not as in tune with their body, their training. Therefore, penciling in a specific time to deload is very good for that individual in my opinion. However, for a more advanced trainee, someone who's very in tune with their body, in tune with their training, how they're feeling, I personally think an auto-regulation approach could be an excellent tool for this individual. However, there's pros and cons because, especially for some of the advanced intermediates, trainees, because they're most of the time they're already exceptionally driven, sometimes having scheduled deload weeks can be very good for that individual, purely because they're the sort of person that constantly wants to push, constantly wants to keep striving to be better, even when their performance in the gym dictates that they need a deload. So where do you start with a deload? Well, some very ballpark figures to start with. You really want to drop your weights probably in around 40 to 60% of what you've normally been using, okay? So you're almost cutting the weight in half. Added to this, you're also going to decrease the volume by at least a third or up to a half. So for instance, say if you're doing 3 sets, you could do 2, etc, etc. So those two key components: reducing the intensity, which is the load on the bar, to decreasing the volume by dropping a set on all of your exercises. You could even drop on your day's training. So for instance, if you're training 4 times a week, you could drop it down to 3. But the key point I want to impress upon you, don't get attached to the details. The deload week, like I said, is a week of active recovery. You need to be doing both of those things: reduce intensity, reduce volume. Some good tips for the deload is, I mean, I've been a victim to this as well, but you'll see a lot of people when they come into their deload weeks, it's almost like they're not training at all. Their form sometimes goes out the window, they're not really paying attention. But this is actually a great opportunity to really refine your technique, and also to do a little bit of speed training. So for instance, let's just look at a deadlift for example. The majority of people, their sticking point is the initial few inches off the floor. So working on using a lot less load than you're used to using, you can really focus on speed off the floor, which then will help you when you come back to your regular weights and working through that sticking point. So focus on speed work, focus on refining your form. Therefore, when you come back to using your usual weights, you should improve. So it's a great opportunity to really do that. You can also work on your flexibility during these sessions, during the end of the sessions, because your sessions are shorter. The other thing that's important to note with regards to deloads, if you're going to use the auto-regulation approach, you need to be very honest and objective with yourself. Because quite often, I mean, we've all had those sessions where you feel like absolute crap going in there and you come away with PRs or a very good session. So sometimes your mind can play tricks on you, actually how you're feeling in terms of how you're feeling in comparison to your actual gym performance. So try and be as objective as possible if you can use an auto-regulation approach. Don't just say, oh, I'm feeling crap, I'm just going to go in and do a deload week. Be objective, look back to your past week's numbers. How is your performance? If there's a significant decline in your performance or a definite stagnation in progress over a number of sessions and perhaps 1 or 2 weeks, then it's time to maybe implement a deload. However, if it's just one of those days you just feel a bit rough, it might be just a case of grinding out and then reassess there afterwards. So I hope you found this useful. As you can see, with regards to deloads, it's not black and white. Just like anything in training and nutrition, the context will dictate whether you will do a auto-regulation approach or a scheduled deload within your timetable and sessions. Both have their place, and it also depends on the programming you're using at the moment. So for instance, I'm doing more of a powerlifting routine at the moment, and I will definitely be deloading every 4th week. However, conversely, when I was focusing mainly on hypertrophy, I use an auto-regulation approach. I was probably deloading maybe every 6th week, purely because if I can keep progressing every week, I may as well hold off until I've hit a plateau, then I can take the deloads. There's pros and cons of both, so hopefully this has given you a few ideas, but the reality is, the take-home point is you need deloads. You need to use deloads at some point within your training. The more advanced you get, the more frequent you'll need them. As a beginner, you won't need quite as many. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Have a good day. Thank you very much.